Today I'm going to talk about output, I'm going to talk about speaking, and I'm going to explain why I don't worry or spend too much time thinking about output or speaking. When I get the chance, I speak in the language that I'm learning, but it's not the focus of my learning activities. So, for example, last night, my wife and I were at a local Japanese restaurant. So I spoke a little Japanese. Some of the staff were Korean. I spoke Korean. I even read some Korean. There was a small group of Persian speakers there, so I spoke with them in Persian. Whatever came out, came out. I like to use the language that I'm learning. I will speak. Given any opportunity, I will speak. But most of my study time is spent on input, spent on getting the language in me. And there's a very good reason. Because when I speak English, which is my native language, my most comfortable language, I rely on a sort of automatic ability to produce the language. Automaticity. It's automatic. When I speak another language, I have all kinds of obstacles. Now I have to worry about gender and grammar and structures, and there are a number of things that make that language less automatic for me to produce. So my goal in acquiring that language is to make the process of producing the language as automatic as possible. Automatic doesn't mean perfect. When I speak Korean, I make lots of mistakes. I'm missing words. If I spoke more often, I would do better, but I have a large reservoir of passive vocabulary that I have acquired through lots of input-based learning. Similarly with Persian. Now, I've been trying to learn 20 languages, so it's not the same as someone learning 2 or 3 languages. So obviously I can't concentrate on one of them, but it's just there. It's in my database. It's in my reserve. It's going to be available for me when I want to speak more, and I will be able to generate that automaticity when I need to. But first, I have to get the language in me. A big part of getting to an automatic ability to produce the language is prediction. It's very interesting because when we are comfortable in a language, when we're listening to the language or reading the language, we now know from research that our brains are constantly trying to predict what's coming in the language. We have this ability to predict, which is very important to our ability to speak. Sometimes what we anticipate is coming turns out to be wrong, and then we make some minor adjustments, but we are constantly predicting when we are inputting, when we are listening and reading. Well, it turns out that ability to predict is absolutely essential to our ability to produce the language, to our, desire to get to automaticity in the language. In fact, some researchers say that output is basically the prediction capability that we have in input turned inside out. So it's the same phenomenon. We use the same functions and same parts of our brain, but we're taking that ability to predict the correct gender, ending, tense, whatever, and we turn it around now and we use that in order to produce an utterance, to say something in the language. So if I want to speak well, of course I eventually need to speak a lot. I need to take advantage of every opportunity to speak. But when I speak, I want to do as well as possible. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be perfect, but within the limits of my knowledge, my vocabulary, my experience with the language, I want to do as well as I possibly can. That means developing my ability to predict, and that requires a lot of input. Input is also, less stressful. There is no risk or less risk in if your prediction is wrong as you're listening. However, when you go to speak and you're relying on your ability to predict the language, and if you get it wrong, you could argue that there's a greater risk. So the stronger my prediction ability, the broader my base of knowledge in the language, the better my level of comprehension, the better I'm going to do when speaking. So that reduces my stress level. And then I rely on automaticity. Whatever comes out, I'm happy. People are appreciative of the fact that I'm able to communicate in their language. I don't strive for perfection. If I had to try to think of the correct grammatical term or gender or tense, I wouldn't be able to speak. I want to be speaking automatically. I want to rely on my ability to predict, and that is developed primarily through input. And that's why Stephen Krashen has had such an influence on me, and I think he's quite correct. And based on brain research now, we know why that is the case, that input, meaningful input, is the key eventually to speaking a language well. So in a way, when we speak, we are planning under pressure. We are trying to predict what is needed. We're trying to plan our utterance. But unlike when we listen and read, we're under a little more pressure. And that's why, again, the more we practice, with input, the better we're going to be. But then eventually, of course, we need to practice retrieving those things. In fact, exercising our ability to predict. I've mentioned some of these things before, but I thought it was useful to put the importance of input activities in the context of our ability to predict. And some people are afraid of speaking, and my feeling is the more they develop their ability to predict what's coming, and therefore based on that prediction ability to plan the utterance, the more successful they will be, and the less stress they will experience when they're speaking the language. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.